Welcome to the Metaphysics Hour. I am your host, Rory Colgan. This is episode 21, the universal law of believing and knowing, or as I like to call it, belief and knowledge. Now, this is a universal force that, again, permeates all of existence. You, me, your brother, your sister, your father, grandparents, your kids' kids, kids of kids of kids that you'll never get to meet unless you live to be like 350. This law is going to apply to all of those people. It applies to all of creation, as far as I can tell. Now, could be wrong about that. Could be some wacky galaxy or some wacky planet where these forces don't permeate. I highly doubt such a reality, because how could it then be universal? So when I speak of universals, I'm speaking of that which permeates the universe. Now, are there multiple universes? More than likely, possibly, I don't know. Haven't had those experiences, but I do know in this particular one, it's governed by unseen forces. And that's what this series is about, discussing those unseen forces. Interesting enough, I'm recording this on Christmas Eve 2015. You're probably not listening to it or watching it on Christmas Eve of 2015. If you are, congratulations. You can be one of the first ones to witness and like the video, and subscribe, of course, to the Rory Colgan channel. But beyond publicity, the cool thing about this is that one of the Gospels in the New Testament, the Gospel according to Matthew, has an excellent description, if you look at it through the right lens, of this particular universal law. So towards the latter half of this hour episode, aka 10 minutes of real time, you and I are going to briefly look at why John the Baptist came before Christ. Dun dun dun! Anywho, let's get into brass tacks. So what is the universal law of belief and knowledge? Well, first, we want to define the belief component. Belief simply means to have a complete idea. Now, it's not just some intellectual idea. It's not just some whimsical fancy, some thought that you had that just can quickly come and leave your mind. A belief is something that's held on to with emotions. And with those emotions and with those attachments, lack of a better word, you have what's called a complete image. You have an image that is rooted in something, that has a shell, it has a casing, and it therefore can be akin to a seed. Now, let's leave the analogy aside and get back to the second half of this universal law. If belief is a complete image, akin to a seed, then what is knowledge? Well, knowledge is direct experience. It is the actual manifestation of, to continue with the analogy, that seed plant blooming as whatever plant it is. So if you have a tomato seed, that's representative of belief. When you have a tomato plant, you have direct experience. You have moved from belief to knowledge. That's key. Our lives are governed, again, by all these universal forces. So if we're not using our beliefs correctly, we are coming to false conclusions. We're having direct experience because it's our God-given power to create our experiences based upon our freaking belief system. So if you want to create hell on earth, guess what you're going to do? You're going to create hell on earth. If you want to create heaven on earth, guess what you can do? All starts with the belief. That belief needs to be complete. It needs to have some emotional gunk behind it, not just gunk in the sense that it's bad, but some oomph, some power, some emphasis, some substance. That's going to help it get through the morass of all the thousands of thoughts that a person thinks every day. And it's going to be activating the other universal laws, like relativity, like attraction, to attract to you, to relate to you things that confirm your belief system. So if your belief system is contrary to the truth, you're going to be going up the river without a paddle with a skunk biting at your toes. Now, I don't know how the hell the skunk got into the boat, and I'm pretty sure it can't swim, but regardless, let's just use the analogy. It's going to suck if you don't use belief correctly. So use belief correctly. So as an example, I have a cell phone. Now, this is one of those fancy-dancy smartphones where it becomes smarter and you become dumber. Ha 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 ha. That's a really bad joke. But in any case, the point is, somebody had to have the belief of that particular phone. And as most beliefs happen, they're not quantum leaps of evolution. They're minuscule changes that result in those quantum leaps. So first you have to have something called communication. Then you have to have something called technology to mine minerals. Then you have to have something called the ability to harness electricity. Then you have to have a power infrastructure. And that's just the beginning. Something started hundreds of years ago before you can ever get to the design of this particular phone. So it tends to be true that you are related to the past as well as to the future, here and now in the present moment. So the universal law of believing and knowing, or belief and knowledge, is intimately tied in with all other universal forces. So how you grew up, you received, whether the external environment told you and you accepted it, or whether you processed the environment and told yourself, you have beliefs about yourself. Some of those are limiting, some of those are encouraging. Hence, we get to that universal law of duality. Some things are positive, some things are negative. You need to ascertain, you need to be able to determine which ones are limiting you and change those beliefs. You might just actually need to focus on the beliefs that do nurture you and spend more time with those, develop those. And as you do, you'll go from that image, that belief, into the direct experience. That is the product of a mind well harnessed. So if you believe that the world's out to get you, that people are mean and bad, that terrorism will win, that the government doesn't understand, that blah, 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 that I'll never find love, money, happiness, peace, satisfaction, never get an abs or a six-pack of abs or whatever it is. Obviously, I don't have them because I would have been able to tell you that a little bit quicker. But I don't really desire them. That's neither here nor there. Sorry for that little aside. That's what happens when you just speak whatever is on your mind. Sometimes you lose your concentration. Not good. But back to the point. What I'm describing to you is that you, me, everybody has the power to change your reality simply by changing your belief system. Now, you may not necessarily even need to change a whole lot. You don't want to go to those beliefs that are really like tumultuous or the ones that have a lot of attachments to, unless you're ready for that, unless you're really ready to examine those beliefs at their core and pull them out, because it's going to reorganize your mind, your brain, your whole way of looking at the world. So it tends to be easier if you're, just beginning this process of waking up, to support something that you do already believe in. To not worry about the little crap, the stuff that you aren't sure you believe in, or the dark stuff, but to focus on the good, focus on something that you do believe in, and find a way to support yourself. For instance, my first book that I did was called The Golden Gem. You can find it at my store, innerhealthtoday.com. You can also find it on Amazon. And I told myself, I believed that I could make a children's book that was better than what I was reading the kids that I was teaching in the Montessori school in Columbia, Missouri that I was teaching at the time. Well, 6 months, maybe 8 months later, I sold all my mutual fund money. I was like 24 at the time, so I didn't have a whole lot, but it was all of my stock. I sold it all so I could put $1,000 into this book and make this book. And I made it. And I read it sometimes even now, and I look at some of those pictures that I spent hours and hours on, and I was very surprised that in some ways I was able to accomplish that. Because the art drawings, they were done by myself. I did the illustrations, and it was better than anything I had ever done in my life, and I was 24 years old. I'd given up on the idea that I had the art gene. Instead, by believing in myself and practicing again and again and again with the image that I had in my mind that I wanted to put on paper, I was eventually able to convey maybe like a really good second grader, maybe fourth grader art student. So those designs were as good as like a really talented 10-year-old. But that was great because here I was 24 years into my life and I never believed that I could even do it. until I decided to put this law to the test. And as putting this law to the test, you start to increase your security in yourself and that the universe does have a rhyme. It does have a reason. There is an oar for you in that paddle boat that you're in. And there's a way to get the skunk off the boat if it's there biting at your toes. So to come back full circle, what is this universal law? This universal law is the law of believing and knowing. The image that you have in your mind that is complete, in other words, you have to have an emotional connection with it, that image precedes direct experience. Now, we're a little bit over 10 minutes, but I'll go ahead and give you that little Christmas treat that I told you I would. In the book of Matthew, John came before Jesus, okay? And it was such that Jesus needed to be baptized by John. Now, theologians will tell you what that means in different ways, in different terms, and all that good stuff. I'm going to give you the metaphysical meaning. John is the aspect that represents belief, that belief comes before. And it's a powerful thing. That man was, I think, eating honey and was like wearing camel hair or a camel vest or something like that, like totally straight out of the wilderness. And he had such a fervent passion for this thing that was to come, this person that was to come. And that's what belief is. It's powerful. It can't be easily swayed from its path. And that's why John baptizes Jesus's feet, because John is representative of belief. And Jesus represents knowledge, or the knower, the one who knows God, knows the reality, knows how to pray, knows how to heal, knows how to walk on water, knows how to be abundant and prosperous, all of those things that we've already talked about. So your belief is that John. And that belief needs to be in place before you're ever going to get to that direct experience of knowing. So if you want to go towards that high and mighty goal, that goal of enlightenment, you have to believe in it first. You have to have that John quality that's really out there, gregariously going for that sense of knowledge. And then as you do the work, you come to this point where you get to initiate, which is what the baptism represents, initiate the knowing quality. In other words, you've evolved and now you're having direct experience with what you've believed. It's a wonderful journey. And I hope you in 2016 will take that journey. It's the journey to understand yourself. And using these universal laws, including the law of belief and knowledge, you will be successful in your endeavors. Go to innerhealthtoday.com, support us on the link, buy stuff from our store, and use the code HALFOFFCLASS for all classroom instructions that will receive, as the coupon title says, 50% off. I'll also include that in the show notes. I hope you all have a great and wonderful week. And whenever you're listening to this, hope your day is being blessed, and I hope it continues to be so. Talk to you soon. Bye.